Blog Talk Radio.
Live from the Balanced Sports Talk Network of radio studios. I don't know what happened there, but I think we can cut the music.
Better late than never, huh?
Right.
Fashionably late to the party. There's a reason I'm not allowed to push buttons. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, the music dropped, and I thought maybe it was playing. Maybe I couldn't hear it. Maybe the audio dropped. But, hey, welcome to Breaking Rank either way. My name is Rick-Riggin, and welcome to the smooth start to the show. College Football Eve, ladies and gentlemen. College Football Eve. Joining me is Tom-Marquis, the host of The Balance that you hear us at every Saturday morning. Definitely tonight, Breaking Rank is your midweek dose of college football. You can reach out to us at 917-889-8516. On social media at Riggin_Rick, which is me, at Breaking Rank 1, and at Thomas Mark. Is that right? Is that your Twitter handle?
Sir. That is right, sir.
All right.
Ready to rock and roll, man.
Ready to rock and roll. We got a lot to dive into, so let's just got a lot to talk about. Let's just dive into it. Let me rephrase. And
you'll be okay.
I want to talk about. I'm all right. I think that audio at the very beginning is throwing me off. Just right before the show, I'll just let everybody know I had a laptop problem, malfunction, and then miraculously, like 3 minutes before showtime, it all came back. And so I'm a little shaken up.
Are you saying that you had an equipment failure?
A wardrobe malfunction, but we're here ready.
An equipment function. I'm glad you're able to take that pill, and we'll get things
right.
Hey, you know what? Hey, here's an idea. Why don't we just start the show all over again? All right, stand by. We're just going to start all over again. You're up. Go, sir.
Live from the Balanced Sports Talk Radio Network studios. My name is Rick-Riggin, and this is Breaking Rank, and this is exactly how you start a show right here. This is for real this time. This is it.
That's it.
College Football Eve, boys and girls, and we got a lot to talk about, so let's dive right into it. Are you ready, Tom?
You know what? I am ready, and it's an exciting time, and we'll do a selfless plug for the Balance on Saturday morning. Selfless plug. College football special going on 2 hours on Saturday, although we will have to throw in some tidbits for racing because we took the weekend off last week for kind of a vacation day. I did the corporate challenge only to have it rained out. So, hey, it was a good vacation day, but we've got to catch up on some racing on Saturday. But other than that, we are going to be having college football Saturday special, and it is opening weekend, so we're going to be doing a lot on that. And I know you and I are going to be starting a new segment. We'll be talking about that as well, but go right ahead, sir.
917-889-8516 is the digits to reach out to us for all your college football questions. And I want to start with Washington-Auburn because I feel that is the biggest game of the weekend. It is not the most intriguing game. We'll talk about that game next. But Washington-Auburn playing down in Atlanta, Georgia, essentially a home game, if you will, for Auburn. Washington's going to make the trip. And, Tom, my question is, who needs this game more? Who needs this win more? Is it Washington or is it Auburn?
Well, clearly it's Auburn because the last thing they want is to lose 3 straight games in Atlanta. So clearly I think it's a bigger win. I don't know that it's a must-win for either team, but I think it's basically a home game team for Auburn. Washington's on the road. Auburn wants to make a statement to come out the gate and punch somebody in the face. So the last thing they want to do is lose to kick off with a bad start at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and Washington could just make it worse because I tell you one thing, the Huskies are the real deal, sir.
Well, I will respectfully disagree with you. I do believe this is a much bigger game for Washington, only because of the conferences they both play in, because everybody is so far down in the Pac-12, and the only other good team in the Pac-12 this year is Stanford, even though USC is there and Chip Kelly's out at USC. I just think the Pac-12 is like 2 steps behind what the SEC is, and it's just a schedule, really, that Washington needs this win because the rest of their schedule really isn't that great compared to Auburn. Auburn can afford to lose this game. They can't get blown out in this game, but they can afford to take a close loss and then possibly run the table and still get into the playoffs. I think this is a much bigger win for Washington only because of the Pac-12, Tom.
Well, and that's a valid point, but certainly Auburn plays in the SEC. And here's one of the big things, losing 3 straight games to the same opponent isn't necessarily unheard of. Losing 3 straight games inside the same stadium isn't the most outrageous thing, but Auburn would be on the wrong part of history if they were to lose this game, and I think that would be a mental ass-kicking for the Tigers if Washington comes in and beats them basically in their home field, in their backyard.
Well, I think Auburn does have the mindset, though, to win a game like this because Auburn is the team that beat Georgia and Alabama last year. They lost to UCF in the bowl game, but they did beat Georgia and they did beat they did beat Georgia and they beat Alabama both last year. And they have the mindset. They have what it takes. They're a strong team. They're going to be really good. They're really a dark horse pick to win the SEC this year. I know everybody talks about Alabama right now, but it could be Auburn. Auburn can get 2 straight against Alabama in the Iron Bowl, and I think a win right here will actually serve Washington better because the way their schedule lines up and just how weak the Pac-10 is this year compared to the SEC, I do think Washington needs this win more. And Washington's a pick for everybody to make the playoff, but it's all got to start with this game right here because they need this win because a one-loss Washington with that schedule they have in the Pac-12, I just don't think that they get in.
Well, and here's the thing. Washington gets snubbed every year. We talk about, Washington should have been in the playoffs. Who's the one team that we know is going to get snubbed in the playoffs because of the Big Ten or because of the SEC? It's always Washington. So from that aspect, it is a huge win. I don't know. I'm not convinced that a season opener loss to Auburn is necessarily going to put them out of the playoffs. But that said, speaking of schedules, the rest of the schedule does set up nicely for Auburn in a very special season. Even if they do lose that 3rd straight time in there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Saturday, Washington is the first of 4 opponents ranked in the preseason AP Top 25, and Auburn has to play 3 ranked teams in the SEC foes on the road, Mississippi State, Georgia, and Alabama. That kind of gauntlet will help discount Tigers' first loss, but Auburn still has to have a good showing on Thursday? Friday? Help me out, Rick.
Saturday.
I don't know the day.
It's on Saturday. It's on Saturday. Like I said, it's college football eve. We have college football on the mind here because college football does. Week 1 starts tomorrow. Week 0 is last Saturday, Tom. I don't think you caught any of the games, but it was actually a pretty good game between Colorado State and Hawaii. I watched the hell out of it because it was real college football that was on. It ended up being it was a Hawaii blowout, but later in the game it got pretty good. Colorado mounted a nice comeback, but great win for the Rainbow Warriors in Hawaii, not beating Colorado State on the road in like 20 or 30 years or something like that. So really big win for them. And like I said, it's College Football Eve. Week 1 actually starts tomorrow. The notable game is Central Florida taking on UConn. UCF is back at it. Back in action again tomorrow. Of course, UCF beat Auburn in the bowl game last year, so they're in Atlanta. That's that's their third straight second loss there. So,
well, we know a little something about we know a little something about UCF. Their coach Lane Kiffin.
Hang on. Lane Kiffin is Florida Atlantic.
Oh, you're right. I do that every single time. Screw that. Go right ahead.
CF, and now he's at Nebraska.
Well, the point is still the point. It could be any school. Insert him here. If Urban Meyer's on his way out of Ohio State, don't you think Ohio State University looks very closely at being one of the teams to give Lane Kiffin another shot as a head coach in a major division, I should say?
Oh, definitely. And there's a growing rumor now that this is, he's lost the respect of the university president for one. And we could talk about this in the second segment. But where's Urban Meyer go next year? Does he take a year off? Does he go somewhere else? I have some thoughts on that and save them for the second half of the show. So definitely stick around for that. But we'll get back on point here with Washington and Auburn. There's a lot of variables that go into the college football playoff, and a one-loss Washington team that loses to Auburn in this game. What about comparing their resume to like a one-loss Wisconsin or a one-loss Michigan State or a one-loss Miami, these teams that play the tougher schedules there in the ACC and the Big Ten? What do you think that does to Washington then to go against these other one-loss teams?
There it goes. It goes full circle to what we were talking about. That strength of schedule. That schedule is what is their corundum, the problem child, if you will, for Washington every single year. They're good enough to have a strong schedule. Unfortunately, they play out west. They don't get watched enough. They don't get as much attention. They don't get as high of ranked. And there again, you're competing against Ohio State. You're competing against Auburn. You're competing against Alabama. Who's that leave? It usually leaves one team. Who's that going to be? A lot of times it's not going to be somebody on the West Coast. Just not going to happen.
Yeah, and the other team I think is in any contention here in the Pac-12 for the Pac-12 championship is Stanford, a team that's been a thorn in Washington's side the last 2 years. They have probably it's not probably. They do have one of the toughest schedules in the country. It's USC at Notre Dame, at Oregon, and I think they're even, or maybe it's home against Oregon, and then they go at Washington. So if a one-loss Washington team really needs Stanford to do well against that schedule, for the committee to look at Washington, and because Washington and Stanford play, and if Washington beats a 2 or 3 or 4 loss Stanford team, that's not really going to look that great with the committee too. So that's why I'm thinking it's more Washington needs this win more than Auburn does because of the way the schedule sets up.
And let's not forget, even though they're not necessarily ranked now, they are a team that's getting a lot of talk abouts, and that's UCLA and their new coach. Like I said before and last week, and said on the show before, UCLA is just the other Southern California team. They are UCLA just because they are UCLA. The only Southern California football team that matters in Southern California is USC. But that said, they do play Washington, and if they manage, and they are at home that game on October 6th, if they manage to pull off a win, I'm quite certain at this point that is a team that Washington has circled as a win. But I would say that UCLA is a team that is coming out to prove to the world that they aren't just the other Southern California football team, that they are, in fact, here in it to win it, as they say.
And I'm really interested to see what that UCLA team looks like under Chip Kelly now being gone from college football for a couple of years. Is it going to be the same high-flying, fast-paced Oregon offense they tried to take into the NFL, or did he bring some of this NFL philosophies back to Southern California with him. We're going to see a more pro-style attack in UCLA. I do think they're going to be very good defensively. Chip Kelly teams in college football anyway are not known for defense. They're known for offense. But I do think UCLA is going to play a bit of defense this year. I'm just very interested to see what they're going to look like